Welcome back to the Alcohol Free Revolution podcast. My name is Steve Smith.
And I'm James Lloyd.
Finish that cup of tea there. Big slug of tea before you I nearly caught you off guard there.
You did.
And we are both alcohol free coaches. And this is part two of our I'm not going to say the name that
Go on, say it.
Of our wife swap episode. Where where we have had the opportunity to interview each other's wives. And last week, Joe had the pleasure of interviewing Jo, my lovely wife, for what it's like to be married to me for the last 11 years, nearly. And notice how I said nearly there, because I just realised it's the anniversary's coming up, not missed it, thank God. And what it's like to be living with me alcohol-free for the last nearly 5 years. So I loved listening to that. I really enjoyed it. It was so interesting to hear it from Joe's perspective, being interviewed by someone else. I was outside the jar, looking at the label.
Yeah, of course you were. Yeah,
exactly. But this week we get the opportunity to. We're going to flip the microphone around now, and I'm going to get the opportunity to speak with James's lovely wife, Kristen.
With the benefit of hindsight of hearing both episodes, I found it incredible how many parallels there are between you and me, but things that I weren't really aware of. So a lot of things that Joe was saying, I thought, oh yeah, Chris used to say that about me, but it wasn't things that I'd necessarily would be consciously aware of about my drinking. But it's fascinating to hear it from your partner's perspective, the good and the bad. So yeah, I absolutely loved doing these two episodes, and it was fantastic, meeting Joe. And I know Chris really enjoyed speaking to you as well. And hopefully this will answer some of the questions that people have around what will my partner think and all of that kind of thing. And what does it mean for the partner? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And so, yeah, before we get into the episode though, we should just share about the alcohol free community, which we meet every Monday lunchtime at 12 o'clock. We've got a group of people who get together and we chat about alcohol-free life, really. We cover a whole range of topics. Great chance for people to meet other people who are on alcohol-free adventure. We've got some people that have been who've been alcohol-free for a year. Others that are perhaps sober curious, who are looking to get started. And it's just a really warm, friendly space where people can sort of share all the wins and some of the challenges. And hopefully we're going to get one or two of them on quite soon to talk about what it's like. If it's something that you're interested in doing, then please reach out to us. You can just drop us an email to info@thealcoholfreerevolutionpodcast.co.uk.
I'm going to interject there. There's no podcast.
Did I get that wrong?
That. info@thealcoholfreerevolution.co.uk.
Okay, here's a bit of a long one, but the easiest way to remember it is it's in the show notes.
Yeah.
So drop us a line, just say interested, or say whatever you want. Say you're both twats and I hate you. Whatever you want, say whatever you want, but just
they go into the junk folder automatically.
Yeah. The only reason that we need your email address is so we can send you the Zoom link. You won't get any kind of spam from us or any kind of payments. It's all completely free. It's all about getting people together. So yeah, if you feel like doing that, then drop us a line. Anything to add, Steve? I'm quite conscious that I've just rambled on there for about 5 minutes.
Nothing to add from me. Let's get straight into it. Let's get into the conversation with your lovely wife, Chris. I now have the pleasure of interviewing Chris, James's wife. Now, I met Chris a couple of weeks ago in real life, unlike James, who had never met my wife, Jo, before. But when I met Chris, it was very brief, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. It's such a pleasure to welcome you to the podcast. Chris, how are you doing today?
Fine. Can you call this the Wags episode?
We could actually. That's not a bad episode. That's a good name.
I've always wanted to be a wag.
Yeah, absolutely. Consider it done.
Great.
Consider it done. I'm looking forward to this because it was an idea of James's actually, and it's a great idea because we often get asked in the community, and the big question when people are thinking about maybe going alcohol free, what on earth does your wife think? What does your partner think? And how does that work? We thought, what better way to do that than to ask? So before we go, for the people listening, just tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris.
My name is Kristen Lloyd, and I am the wife of James Lloyd, and we've been married for 21 years. You can tell by my accent that I'm not from the UK. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that's me, I guess.
Awesome. So how did you and James meet?
We met in a bar. We met in an Irish bar
Okay.
in Barcelona.
Okay.
So that set the tone for the start of the relationship, I'd say, because we
That
were both quite drunk when we met. So, yeah, that's how we met. It was a holiday romance, I guess you call it. And we met that night. We immediately hit it off, and yeah, and James was like no guy I've ever met before. So I thought, this is interesting. Unfortunately, he lives 2,500 miles away or whatever it is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But yeah, it was a
right.
holiday romance, and yeah, we kind of kept it going for a while, off and on, and then I think maybe 2 years later, we thought, yeah, should we get married? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. And I'm sure everybody thought, that's never going to last, is it? But here we are 21 years later. So yeah, we found each other well matched.
Wow. And you were still in Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
So
Pittsburgh.
it's
I moved here when we got married. We got married in Pittsburgh, and
right.
then I immediately moved across. Yeah.
Awesome. So spill James like when you first met him, because I've only known James for about a couple of years now, but properly since we started the pod, which is about 9 months or so.
Yeah. James was great fun, and he liked to drink, and at that time I like to drink too. So that was good. We were a good match. James is interested in lots of things, but it struck me that he was really into music and film and had so many interesting things to say about it. And yeah, and he was just I guess, he was from the UK, so that was immediately kind of attractive to me. He was a foreign person. Not really, but you know what I mean? And it's something different. He came from a different culture, and I was interested in that. And yeah, and he was just yeah, and also quite, a sensitive person, and kind, and he's devoted to me, definitely still is, and that was just wonderful. And yeah, fell in love with him pretty quickly because of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Is there anything that just to spill the beans, is there anything that people listening might not know about James, or even me, even better?
I'll tell you what, James is the guy you want on your pub quiz team
Oh,
because
really?
oh my God, he knows so many strange general knowledge facts. Like he's kick ass at Trivial Pursuit, and he knows so much about music and film. I do not understand how he retains dates. I'll ask him a question about like when did this song come out, and he'll be like 1985 January something. I'm like, how do you know this? But he worked in a record shop. It's
Yeah,
when he
yeah,
was
he
yeah
said.
yeah. So he said, look, these were playing all the time. I remember exactly when it came out because I was I was surrounded by it. So yeah, he has incredible general knowledge. So if you're looking for a quiz partner, James is first pick.
That could be a good idea, actually. But,
Yeah,
um,
yin yang.
but yeah, he's definitely the brains of this operation because he's the one that always recites all the statistics and the quotes from
Yeah,
the
he's
books and
that's
everything
it.
else. It's
He
like,
kn- he
yeah,
he has an uncanny ability to remember things like that, and I have no memory at all. So I'm like, how do you do that? It's a real talent. It's a
when
talent.
when you speak to him next, you can just ask him if he can next remember my birthday next
Oh
year. That
yeah,
would be
that's
good.
one thing he can't remember. I do know that. Yeah.
So before James stopped drinking, we're like talking about alcohol. What was James like? What was his relationship with alcohol before he stopped drinking?
Um, it's funny because my background with alcohol is a little bit complex, and I think when I met James, firstly, I thought he drank a lot, but I also was drinking a lot as well. So benchmarked, the benchmark wasn't really there. But I also kind of recognize that he's from the UK and you have a very different drinking culture in the UK. So I immediately thought that was kind of normal. But also, my dad was a middle lane drinker that sort of edged into alcohol dependency. So I guess, there's like some cognitive dissonance there because I'd always compare that to my dad. And I thought, well, yeah, he's probably, he's not drinking as much as my dad did. So that's pretty normal. But he's always liked to drink. And yeah, and he was, quite sociable and could always, talk somebody's ear off. And and, that's kind of that I guess that's the happy side of how he
Mm,
was before he
mm.
stopped drinking. But there was also a not so nice side to James. You probably know Steve. He's quite opinionated.
Really?
No, yeah, I know. I know this comes as a
It's all
surprise.
coming out
Comes
here.
as a surprise to you. Newsflash. He's quite opinionated, and when he was drinking, yeah, those opinions would come out, and quite often it caused quite a lot of tension. And I remember kind of being worried as well when he would go to work events about what he might say,
Right.
to people, because he had gotten into trouble a few times, just with his mouth, I guess, and drinking. So I would worry about that as well. But in general, initially I thought, he's quite a happy-go-lucky drinker. But as our relationship continued, what I realized is there was a lot of arguments. There was a lot of arguing, and James and I, if you know us now, we do not really argue. We don't, we gel
Mhm.
very well together, and it's unusual for us to have a flat out argument now. But back then, that was pretty normal. So what I realized is James, his temper, he had a bad temper. He was quite quick to bite, when he was drinking. I think the filter comes off, and that's what I noticed the most is filters. And I would be kind of the recipient of that, nastiness, I guess, verbally.
That's interesting. Was that when you say when he was drinking, or would it
Oh
something
yeah.
that kind of just filtered
Um,
into?
yeah, that's a good question too. But yeah, it was definitely when he was drinking. This arguments
Oh,
were
okay.
generally when he was drinking. But in general, I think he was. I used to think of him as like Victor Meldrew sometimes. Like kind of a grumpy guy. Like kind
Yeah.
of grumpy, quite irritated about things that I was like, who cares? Quite irritable, quite an irritable.
Hmm.
And now I'm I'm talking about this with the benefit of hindsight because James is
Yeah.
so different now. And I realized that actually that was probably alcohol doing that to him as well, that low mood kind of irritability. Now that I realize what he's like without it, I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, so he was kind of, yeah, he was opinionated. He was a bit irritable, and that went on for yeah quite a while. And I thought that was just like the norm, I guess, for him. And now I realize it's not him at all.
With that hindsight, yeah. I
Yeah, with the
mean,
hindsight.
in terms of, so did drinking take play a big part of your social life in the
Yeah,
earlier stages? And it's
yeah,
interesting hearing you saying about coming over from the US and seeing the difference
hmm
in the culture here.
hmm
What first struck you about that?
just that people drank at lunchtime, like a
Right.
lot. um, People would drink at all occasions, all the time, and that wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't used to seeing that. Um, it just everything kind of revolved around alcohol, and I thought that was pretty cool because I was drinking a pretty good amount as well. I actually worked in a brewery to pay my way through university, so we would make beer. We hung out with brewers, so beer.
Right.
I love beer. I loved beer. Beer was a big part of
Mm.
my existence, and I loved coming over here and drinking the beer that was here, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. But yeah,
Yeah.
oh, 100%. So I mean, our entire the I would say, first 5 years, maybe 10 of our relationship, every social activity was drinking, and I was a willing participant in the drinking as well.
Mm.
And also, we had jobs that we lived in London for 5 years, so
Mm.
I think straight away your social life is different. The drinking culture is different because you don't drive.
Yeah.
I worked for a music company. He worked in film. We were out a lot at events. There was a lot of booze around. I mean, I worked in an office that had a bar in it. So, that was wild to me as well. I was like, wow, you can drink at work? That's wild.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so drinking was a big part of our relationship early on. Well, not early on, with the first 10 years, I'd say, Steve. And I'm
Right.
actually reflecting on when we first moved out of London and into Bagshot, where we live now. Um, we would go every Friday night down to the pub with our dog, and we would just get into an absolute stupor. Like we would drink a lot, and it was fun. We listened to bands, and it was great. And that's what we did every Friday night for a very long time. So, and that was 10 years ago. So, I'm not going back that far when I say that it was, yeah, part of our relationship.
Okay. Would you say in those moments that I don't know whether this is feel free if this is a tricky question. Would you say that was almost led by James, or and you were kind of drinking to keep up, or was it kind of a mutual thing that you both kind of just loved drinking and that was the kind of where you were
Mm,
at?
I think, good question. Initially, we both loved drinking. I think when I met James, I was probably drinking the most I've ever been drinking. Socially, I was drinking a
Hmm.
lot. I was drinking at work because I worked in a
Yeah, yeah.
brewery. I had another job as well, but in the evening, I loved it so much. I kept working there. So I think initially it was both of us. He definitely could drink more than I could. And then as the relationship went on, I think for him, it became more important than it did for me. And I think he was definitely leading a lot of, yeah, let's go out and get smashed. And I was like, I used to travel for work as well. So I'm like, I've been away all week. I actually just want to chill at home. And I remember quite a lot of arguments would be, we would go out for a nice meal, and we'd have, a drink or two, and then he'd say, "Oh, come on, let's just go have one at the pub." And I knew that that wasn't one, and I didn't want to be dragged along to become his
Mm.
drinking buddy. I wanted to be his date. I wanted to have a dinner date. I did not want to go get smashed, and that for the last sort of 5 years of his drinking, that became kind of regular irritation of mine, is that I then became his drinking buddy, and I really didn't want to be. That's not what I wanted out of the relationship. So yeah, it kind of progressed where I was kind of backing off on alcohol and he was kind of leaning in.
How was it? I mean, you say
Yeah,
sort of the first 5 to 10 years. Towards the end, it sounds like that shifted a little bit.
it definitely was. And I was just talking to James about this over the weekend. And what I realize now, again with hindsight, is, I think this is probably common for many partners who have a partner that's drinking more than they are. For me, the relationship became kind of a conversation trigger. So the arguments would happen when he's drinking, almost exclusively. And what would happen is he would drink, and then something would happen, some sort of irritation. So, it like he would be quite sharp or kind of say something nasty that would trigger me, and I would react. And then we would have an argument, and then it would cool off until the next time he started drinking. So, what I was explaining to James is what it does is causes this like low level resentment over time, because his drinking to me was not it was that wasn't the problem. The problem was the behavior that came from the drinking, and that's what
Mm.
would irritate me, and it causes over time this low level resentment towards your partner, but you can't quite put your finger on that it's the drinking. It's actually the behavior that comes from the drinking. And like, I've got a lot of friends that are like, "Oh, my partner snores. He or she snores after drinking, and that keeps me up." And and that goes on, and that's like a loop that goes on. And that's what causes them the frustration. In fact, it's the drinking, but to them it's the snoring or whatever behavior irritation
Mm.
comes out of that. Yeah, and the thing about it is, like I said to James, is the problem with that is it's not a meaningful conversation that you can move on from. It's this loop, and you're never able to move on because it just happens the next time, and the same things start happening again, and then the conversation stops until the next time. So it's not it's no meaningful conversation that you can move on from. So that's what causes that resentment over time. So yeah, it was becoming a problem. It was, but I wasn't putting my finger on the drinking, so to speak. It was the behaviors that were irritating me.
And was that something that became more apparent after he decided to go alcohol free?
Yeah.
So you say with hindsight, did you kind of realize
Yeah.
that that had been the drink
Yeah,
that was
because
causing it?
he was a different person.
Yeah.
And I mean, first of all, when he told me, this is quite shameful, but when he told me he was going to go alcohol free, I didn't believe him, because he had tried so many times, and I was supportive of that, and I was so happy for him. And he did, he so many times he like kind of dried up, and then but then he would always go back kind of harder. Um but yeah, so when he told me, he said, "Yeah, I'm done. I quit. I'm finished. Like, this is it. I mean it. I'm done." And I was like, "Yeah, okay. All right, good for you." but I didn't really believe him, and I feel kind of bad about that now that I didn't believe him. But I was always kind of waiting for the moment he'd make that excuse to have a drink. You know, I was always kind of waiting with bated breath for that. Um, yeah. So what I notice is he's such a different person. He's lighter now, you know, in personality and view, and yeah, he enjoys life more, and that's when I was able to make you know, the comparison quite sharply to how he was when he was drinking. I mean, it's really, I don't want to say it's night and day, the personality, but it's 100% changed for the better. And what I realized is all these other traits that he had were not really him. It was the booze, definitely. So I'm able to now
Mm,
with, you know, 5 years, he's got what, 4 years under his belt or whatever. I can
yeah,
really
yeah.
see the difference in him. And now I realize I can attribute those things to the drinking now, where I probably couldn't before because I was normalizing what he was doing based on my own experience.
Yeah. Do you remember when he first started talking? So you mentioned he'd taken a couple of breaks before and kind of fallen back into it. Do you remember the moment when he first started talking about going? Was it just a kind of penny drop moment? He said, I'm done," or was it, did he toy around with it a bit longer or discuss it, or was he just straight in there and delivered the
Um,
news?
you know, it was like he says himself, he was a seasonal drinker, so he had stopped and started many times. I remember when we were in Abu Dhabi, the time before he stopped drinking, where he took an extended break. And I remember
Mm,
him reading a book. It's probably the
mm,
first time he had read like a self help book or whatever. It was the Alan Carr Stop Drinking. And
mm,
I was a smoker and I read the Alan Carr Quit Smoking or whatever it's called. And
mm,
and I
yeah.
never smoked again. So maybe he picked up the drinking one thinking, oh, maybe this is it if it helped
Mm.
Chris stop smoking. So I remember him quitting then and talking a lot about it, um and then starting again. I mean, he the way he talks about it now certainly wasn't the way he was talking about it when he had stopped before, and I think that was because he hadn't changed his mindset. He was just using kind of willpower to stop
Yeah.
the drinking. But this time when he quit 4.5 years ago, that's all he talked about. He was immediately like his identity was becoming a non-drinker, and he was immersing himself in everything alcohol free, and the difference was he was loving it. Like he was loving being alcohol free, whereas the previous times I think he was just white knuckling through being alcohol free. You know, he was happy but he was like, oof, just kind of, it was hard, and his mindset was different. So this time, yeah, it's all he talked about.
And is that when you kind of started to think maybe this is a bit more long term? And when did that
Yeah.
start to? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say he was obsessed with the books and the podcasts, and, you know, he was talking about it. And I think right then, yeah, as time went on, I realized, I don't think I think this is different. This like feels really different. And he was sort of very mindful of how happy he was as well. And I thought, once you know, you know, you can't unknow. So I think I knew it was different then. And then, yeah, and then like months and months and months went on, and he was like really leaning into this identity. And I'm like, this is it. I don't think he's going to drink. But yeah, it just didn't occur to me that he would drink again. I just don't think, I think he was too far into the lifestyle to go backwards. And he knew that too. So I knew it would stick.
When you started to realize that maybe this was a bit more long term and actually this was something you was going to hugely change, what was your kind of reaction then? Did you worry for your drinking buddy, even though it was causing issues in the past?
I was worried maybe I would be judged because at the time that he quit drinking, I had cut back quite dramatically. My lifestyle in the last, I don't know, 6 years or so has changed quite dramatically. I'm in the gym. I like to exercise. I'm really active. I also have been going through menopause, and that is incredibly challenging when you're drinking. So
Hmm.
I had cut back quite dramatically at that point anyway, and it wasn't really featuring in my life as much anymore. But I still would have a drink. And I thought, is he not going to like this? Is he going to be uncomfortable with me having a drink? Um, yeah, that was kind of my initial thought, was really about, is he going to be uncomfortable if I have a drink in front of him? And also, I really wanted to support him I think I kind of immediately stopped drinking in the house. At that point, when he said I'm done, I think I never had a bottle of wine or anything in the house again. And I kind of joined in. I'd say I kind of joined in with his alcohol-free beer sessions, and I would have one too. And but yeah, I think initially I thought, I hope he doesn't judge me if I want to carry on drinking. But at that stage, I wasn't drinking a whole lot anyway.
Mm.
And I have to say, he never did. He's never ever kind of tried to, persuade me not to drink or anything like that. He's just never judged me at all. And, and the question that is everybody wants to ask is, do I drink?
It could be
Right?
my next question. Go for it.
It
Yeah.
could be your next question, but and we were talking about this morning as well because every time I'm with James in any kind of setting, he says he doesn't drink. It comes up somehow that he is alcohol free. He doesn't drink. He
Mm.
hasn't had a drink. Immediately, almost every time, Steve, almost every time, they look at me and say, "Do you drink?" Almost every
Interesting.
time. And I said to James this morning, what is the psychology behind that question? Because it's not a
Yeah.
one off, it's every single time. So I'm almost like prepared now. As soon as he comes out with, like, oh, here's what I do and here's why. And people start asking, I'm almost prepared that that question's going to come at me now. And the thing
That's
is,
really
is I do,
interesting.
is I do still have a drink. I can tell you the last time I had a drink was the 10th of January. It was my girlfriends took me out for my birthday, and I had a gin and tonic and a glass of champagne. And I drink so rarely now. I can mark it on the calendar when I do. I
Right.
just does not fit into my lifestyle. But I do. I wouldn't say I'm alcohol free. I'm not. But when the doctors
No.
also give you that survey and they're like, how often is it? Once a week? Once a month? I can't even like I'm not even in a category. I drink
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
little. I can't find the category. Um, so I still do, but very very rarely. But they always ask that question.
That's
Why do
interesting.
you think they ask that question? Because I've got a psychology sort of answer for this. But what do you
Well, I'd
think?
be interested to hear because obviously we all the part of the reason why we're doing this episode is to we wanted to kind of say, how do you feel about James? Not how do you feel, but actually, yeah, that's a really valid point. That actually not so much. And having spoken to James, I know I can hear how supportive that you are around that, and but it's interesting to hear that one of the biggest things is actually other people then questioning your drinking. Maybe I don't
Immediately,
know.
always the
Yeah.
first question.
What?
So I asked a world leading psychologist this morning, Chat GBT. It was
Not James.
no chat. I asked because I'm like, there has to be
Yeah,
some psychology behind this. Anyway,
yeah,
so what it said was what like really resonates because it first, I think the first thing is they're scanning for normality, right? There's that like James doesn't drink, the person probably drinks. They're asking me if I don't drink so they can decide like is James an outlier or am I an outlier? Right? Or they're trying to
wow.
decide like is it and then the second one I think is like permission to for their own behavior. So if I said I
Yeah,
didn't drink and James said that he didn't drink, immediately the person's going to be like, are they going to judge me because I'm drinking? Right?
yeah,
I think yeah, and then thirdly, I think it's just sort of again, it's like cognitive dissonance. Like, it am I drinking normally or am I not? Is this normal? Like, what is the norm here? If she's not
yeah,
drinking and there's two
yeah,
people not drinking and I'm drinking, then there's it's not okay for me to drink.
yeah.
So what I realize now is it's never about me or they're curious about me. It's about them
Mm,
because it gets asked every single time and I'm like this cannot be like there's got to be something behind this question. So yeah, I think it's a person scanning for pack normality when they meet two people that don't really drink. But I say like I do, it's hard for me to answer that question because I'm like yes, but
yeah.
like not like you think I do. It's a glass here and there, 5 times a year now or something. So it's hard to answer that question, but it's not part of my
It's
lifestyle. That's what I would say is like I kind of
yeah,
live an alcohol free lifestyle without being alcohol free, if you know what I mean. I don't,
yeah.
I'm a take it or leave it. I don't put any value behind it. I, we were away for the weekend. I didn't have one drink. I'm just not interested. And it's very specific social occasions where I would have one. But yeah, but it's the psychology behind that question that's so interesting. And we get it every time.
I think once if that's your relationship with alcohol, and I think certainly for me, and I'm sure for James, we're almost in awe of people. My wife's the same now. She'll open a bottle of wine
Yeah.
and we'll end up using the last third of it in cooking because it's gone
Yeah.
so bad that it's been sitting out for so long.
Yeah.
So, and I think we're kind of in awe of that kind of the ability to have that relationship with alcohol, because I think
Yes.
James would describe, and I would certainly describe myself when I was drinking as having no off switch necessarily, and always kind of I would have one beer on
Yeah.
the go and then I'd be looking kind of
Yeah.
where's the next one coming from, and that was kind of my relationship with that. But it's really interesting, and hearing you saying about people looking for their own validation, that's so true, and we say this time and time again about how people will ask that question because they want to question their own relationship with alcohol, particularly to the person who stopped drinking. I've never heard it said before to their partners, and that just cements what we talk about. It's always
Yeah.
validating their own drinking. It's not about
And
what's going on with you.
absolutely. And people are so curious about what he does. And I can see straight away because I'm observing, from the sidelines, so to speak. I can see straight away that they're like, oh, like first of all, I didn't even know that was an option. They didn't know it was an option, but they really start needling in on like asking him a lot of questions about it. And then while they're drinking, some of them are really drinking as well. Quite often, this happens at weddings when we're not drinking, and it's very unusual, not to be drinking at a wedding. So
Yeah,
immediately,
yeah.
people are very curious, like, "Are you okay?" And I'm too old to be pregnant, so they probably figure I'm not. But yeah, so the curiosity and the body language changes, and yeah, it's quite fascinating to watch James interact with people that are curious about it because I can tell, like, they really want to know more about it. They're really
Yeah,
curious about it.
yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting.
As as James kind of now approaches 5 years, and I'm kind of approaching 5 years alcohol free now as well. What if you could kind of pinpoint, what would you say the biggest change in James is, or the biggest gain in James since he
Well,
stopped?
for me, I would say to anybody whose partner is gonna think about going alcohol free, you will reap the benefits of this because the biggest advantage is that James is super present with me now. Um, And you were asking like what was James like before? I used to dread going on holiday, on vacation, because
Mm.
it was a drinking session, morning, noon, and night, and we would fight on vacation all the time. Constantly we were fighting. It was miserable actually. And when we go on vacation, I think, "Oh, here we go again." Because it was an excuse to get smashed like all day long and it would just bring out the worst. And I just felt like when we were anywhere he was just thinking about the next drink or we recently went to Kylie, we went to see Kylie, of course, in Hyde Park. And it might
Oh,
have been
don't.
like,
Yeah.
I know, it might have been the first time we went to like a big, like all day festival, like gig. It was one of those Hyde Park things where it's all day.
Yeah.
And that could have been maybe the first time, maybe the second time where he wasn't drinking. But what I noticed, I said to him, "Hey, we've seen every act. Like we've caught all the music, and usually, like you'd be at the bar half the time. You wouldn't catch the act. We wouldn't listen to the music because we'd be off like trying to get the next drink or whatever. Isn't this great that we've watched the whole thing and enjoyed it start to finish?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's just like it's freedom." But
That
yeah, so he's so present. So the things we do together now just I feel like we're in each other's presence and we're enjoying it equally the same way, experiencing things that way. He's a lot more sensitive when I'm talking to him. He's in the moment. He's asking questions. He's not like thinking about something else. Or yeah, I would just
mm,
say overall his presence is just different with me and our relationship. And that's great because that's what you want out of a partner. You want a supportive partner, not a partner that's thinking about the next drink. So,
yeah,
yeah, I'd say that's the
yeah.
biggest change. It's his joy for life is different now, and that makes me really happy. And yeah, you don't want a partner that's a bit down in the dumps all the time, do you? You want somebody that's a fountain, not a drain, I always
Right.
say. And James is more of a fountain than a drain now. And that's great because that rubs off on my outlook on life as well. Um,
Yeah,
we have more money.
that
So that's
helps.
great. That's great. So just so many, but definitely the presence. that he brings to the relationship now is wonderful.
It's yeah, that the money is often a sideline that's less talked about, isn't it? But
Yeah.
it's only when you step back and actually look at that and that side of it. But
Yeah, we still, yeah, have to. I'm married to this now. I have to do it. Would you say that Joe says the same thing? I'm just curious about what your wife thinks about.
I would hope so. I have to listen to her
Yeah.
recording.
Oh, okay. You don't know. She's never
But,
said to you. Yeah. Maybe
well,
I
I
haven't
think
either,
yeah,
Joe.
no, she has, yeah, she has, and I think obviously we have kids as well, so I really, life's busy. Life's really busy with two young boys and the challenges that that brings. But I would hope that certainly in terms of my presence with the kids as well, I would hope,
Yeah.
I feel a lot more present with the kids, and
Yeah.
Joe has said that, and she often refers back to how my my kind of intentions to stop drinking was when I realized just how much I was neglecting my duties
Yeah.
as a dad, particularly when they
Mm,
were babies as well, and it was like
yeah.
ugh, it was yeah. So I
Did
think
you
that's the
think
biggest
Joe
impact.
kind of resented that as well? I mean, I can't imagine, like, obviously
I
when you're
would
trying
say
to take care of
100%,
babies and a partner is like
100%,
smashed, you feel completely
100%.
100% responsible for those children because the partner can't really, yeah, cope or do anything with it. So that would,
We often refer to it, and it, yeah, it chills my bones to think it. But one of the first points, and unfortunately, it wasn't the first domino that actually made me stop for good. It took a few years after. But yeah, I fell asleep on the train after drinks in London. My
mm,
eldest was 4 weeks old, and I woke up at the end station and kind of, yeah, had to get a taxi 40 miles home. And
yeah,
yeah, it's embarrassing really, but it was kind of that was where certainly where the seed was sown for me. Unfortunately, it wasn't yeah. So absolutely, she resented. I'm sure she resented me for it, and actually
mm,
with good reason,
reason.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But listen, I mean, it's really clear. I mean, you can see in James in terms of I can see in James that it's not just been the alcohol. I think he's kind of the way he kind of talks about his health club and he's looking after himself, and it's the kind
Oh,
of
he's
he
obsessed.
refers it to that domino effect of taking alcohol away and kind of everything else improving. Do
Yeah.
you see that as yeah?
Well, I feel like, I definitely have a brighter outlook on our future. I mean, I feel like,
Mm,
yeah, we're gonna be old. We're gonna be really old and really able. I mean, we're child-free people, so
mm,
we don't have children to look after us, and we both say like we have a duty to each other to be healthy and happy for a very, very long time. So I feel, yeah, elated that he's so obsessed with his health now, because
mm.
I know that that's going to keep him going for a really, really long time, and that's going to benefit me as well because I'm not going to be looking after, a sick old man. So that's great because I want to live my life too. It's not fair. It's not fair
I,
on the other partner, right? So, yeah, he's just, yeah, it's completely transformed his life and mine.
I can see him now in his mid 90s with his Kylie posters up on his wall.
Yep,
Rocking
lifting
away in the
weights,
background. Yeah, and
cold plunging.
yeah, cold plunging. He refers to that a lot actually, and that comes across. He refers to that you've had that conversation about having this
Yeah,
responsibility to each other to grow old together. I think that's really really lovely, and I think that
yeah.
that kind of sums up that the best intentions behind that decision, and it's been
Best decision
yeah,
he's ever made. Best decision he's ever made, with the exception of marrying me, I would say. So,
absolutely.
second best decision he's ever made.
Second best decision he's ever made, and I will make sure I remind him of that every week.
Great. Put
Chris,
that on your
it's
own
been
notebook.
absolutely lovely to talk to you. I know we met very briefly a few weeks
Yeah.
ago, but it's lovely to actually have a proper chat, and we'll have
Yeah.
to all get together at some
Oh, that'd
stage.
be
That would be
great.
lovely. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure, because you're
fantastic.
not
Let's
too
do
far
that.
away.
No,
Absolutely. But brilliant. Well,
great.
thank you for giving up your time. It's been really lovely to chat to you, and yeah, it's been
Oh,
great. Thank you so
great. Thanks,
much.
Steve. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.